Hey, it's Adam with Ri3D at Purdue. Real quick, we're just doing our kind of end-of-day recap. First, thank you so much to Deckard Farms for hosting our shop for the night. As we go to transition to another place to finish out in the early morning to kind of early afternoon tomorrow, this gives a nice place to finish manufacturing our last few pieces and get any final details worked out. So, going through the actual recap of the day. First of all, our swerve works. As mentioned earlier, when we talked a little more about the swerve and our Champions Day and how we fixed our swerve issues more so, we switched to the relative encoders rather than the absolute encoders. It's not perfect, but it works for the Ri3D scenario. We've actually managed to show it driving, turning, all those good things as intended. So that's great. We have our drivetrain working pretty perfect. Everything is fabricated. We've started to do the final assembly. So we can see kind of parts of the forebar getting ready to be assembled. We need to add a few more bearings, obviously. But there's no more sprockets or plates or any other fasteners that really need to be found or sourced. Next, as I said, the forebar is attached. Our intake is assembled. We've found the right pulleys and everything. So that should be ready to just be slapped on once we get our wrist joint figured out. All of our gear ratios for different assemblies have been found, and they are quick. Thanks to Andy Mark for donating all the various gearboxes. We use primarily sport boxes, aside from one single joint where we used a Versa because we wanted to get closer to a 30-to-1 ratio, and so we had a 10 and a 3, which was a little better than the 20 or the, I think, 40 we had on hand for sport boxes. That just gave us the optimal speed for our current needs. So we estimate based off of using recalc for calculations and things like that. If we were to do set points and PID loops, which we hope to maybe do further down the road, if not tomorrow, we should be able to hit any different scoring or intake point with this robot within about 2 seconds. So it is fast. I think our bigger concern is slowing it down to make sure we don't accidentally tip, going up too high or going back down to our base height very, very quickly. Last little thing, our climber, which we have, we're doing a kind of standard climber in a box. We've machined a kind of rough hook for the idea of we go up and we kind of hook into the center hole and just hang through that center hole off of the cage. Now, we did get a few questions today, so now we're going to go through and answer those questions. First of all, we have, how does the length from the wheel to the exposed end of the shaft for your intake mechanism affect your ability to interact with the coral if it does affect it? Yeah, so the reason we put the wheel kind of far back is we wanted to make sure that we weren't accidentally hitting the piece before we actually had a firm hold on the shaft. So that way we didn't accidentally rub it when it's not on the shaft or it's beside it or some other weird issue where we wouldn't really get a firm hold and instead we'd kind of launch the game piece away. The other purpose was we kind of want to let gravity do its thing, and if we put the wheel too much further down, we're giving it power a little bit longer in, which could cause some kind of more volatile reactions rather than just getting it over the edge and letting it kind of sink down onto the reef. So that was kind of the idea behind the measurement, but we do think that if you wanted to prototype with it a little more, even with the intake plates we designed, they were designed with the spot for multiple different holes, or for the length for multiple different holes. We just ended up going with this one for our final design. The next one is from Hannah from 829, the Digital Goats. What do you think is going to be most crucial or more crucial for scoring? Algae in the processor, algae in the net, or the coral on the reef? Now, I believe that the coral will be the most by far, with the processor being worth a decent bit of points, a net 2 points even if your opponent manages to score it in the net, and the net be and then the scoring directly algae into the net being a net 4 points. It's still less than even, I believe, an L3 coral. And with there being many score locations and shorter, quicker cycles, as well as unlimited game pieces and far more scoring opportunities than the max 9 algae you could realistically score until their human players have to start tossing some back into the field or miss shots on the net. Coral is going to be a much more consistent strategy. So if you're worried about having to pick one or the other, there's far more opportunities to score, and with there not being an RP associated with the algae, but one explicitly associated with the coral, I think it would help you have a better ranking position and a higher scoring bot overall. Last, we had a question specifically about the cage, and somebody asked, with it being steel, is it magnetic even though there's the powder coat on it? Now, since we were able to get a hands on it a little bit earlier, thanks to, once again, Andy Mark being a very generous donator and letting us borrow one of their field elements, Daniel's going to go ahead and pan down and show a magnet wood stick. Now, of course, robots are very heavy. I don't necessarily know how you would use a magnet in a beneficial way, because you're not going to be able to hang a robot from a magnet, as well as we went and weighed this earlier today, and it came in at about 17.5-ish pounds from, give or take, I think about a quarter pound. So with that in mind, it would require a very strong magnet to really have any noticeable impact on either side, or to kind of try and muffle the swing or the reaction from the cage. So I think you're far better off just trying to fasten directly to it. That's all we have for you today. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow at 9 a.m. to do any kind of final little assembly and get our final working robot all set up with code. Thank you all for watching, and see you all then.